Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I am Jennifer Sontag. I am the founder of Italian Citizenship Concierge. My partner Bettina unfortunately cannot be here with us today, but from our team we have Maggie. Maggie is based in Cleveland, Ohio, and she heads up our documents team. So Maggie takes care of getting all of the documents for citizenship cases as well as visa cases prepared with her team based in Cleveland. And also we have a team in Denver, Colorado, as well as we have a small team here in Italy. Joining us today is Anna Maria. She is the lawyer for FG Law Firm based here in Palermo. And Anna Maria has been an attorney for a number of years based here in Italy, and her focus is on real estate. And so we want to talk a lot about real estate today because we're seeing a lot of questions in social media and questions coming to us about how to buy a property in Italy, how to rent a home in Italy, whether it's for a visa or a citizenship process. So we want to draw on Anna's expertise and answer some of your most pressing questions on how to do this, because it is different than the United States. So I want to give Anna Maria a second. If you can go ahead and give us an introduction, Anna Maria.
Okay, introduction in this lease agreement. In Italy, there are different types, as you told, different types of lease contract, each with the specific legal and tax features. The landlord and the tenant initially discuss contract details such as the lease duration, monthly rent, security deposit, and any other relevant terms. Once both parties agree on the terms, it is possible to choose the property's type of lease contract and include necessary clauses. The most common contract is the free market lease, which has a duration of 4 + 4 years that renewable automatically. Other types of rental contract exist and can be discussed separately if necessary. But Jennifer, the pen is 4 + 4, but depending on the tenant's needs, an early termination clause may be included in the contract, allowing the tenant to leave the property before the expiration date without penalty, as long as there is an agreement with the landlord.
And so, Anna Maria, let's talk a little bit about that, right? Because for someone to apply for a visa, okay, let's start talking about visas. Visas are handled at the consulate where someone lives. So if you live in the United States or you live in Canada, you're going to contact your Italian consulate and you're going to prepare several documents for them. You're going to have to prepare your financial information, background checks, and as well as some vital records. And you're going to have to present those to the consulate. In addition to that, you're going to need something called a codice fiscale. Let's start with that. What is a codice fiscale, Anna?
Codice fiscale is very important. If you want to sign a lease agreement or if you want to buy a property here in Italy, it's very important, it's necessary. Even if you don't have this one, you cannot go ahead with any agreement here in Italy. It's important because you have with Codice Fiscale to register at the Agenzia delle Entrate. So it's very important to obtain this. And Jennifer, it's not complicated to obtain, but you have to follow exactly procedure, and you have some documents and everything in order to obtain this. But also in the Agenzia delle Entrate, I think that you cannot wait long to obtain this, but it's important to have all the documents. How can you move to obtain this Codice Fiscale in general for your client, for your customer?
So typically, right, your Codice Fiscale is you receive this from the Agenzia delle Entrate. The Agenzia delle Entrate is the tax agency. However, if you are still in the US or Canada or the country that you live in, you can request it through the consulates. Now, the consulates are making this much more difficult to receive as a foreigner. They want to see that you have a contract for a home. So it's a bit of a circular process. So they want to see that you have a contract for a home, but you can't get a contract for a home without the tax agency number. So we're kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit on this. And like many things in Italy, it's complicated. So there are agencies like our agency, a commercialista who is a tax accountant here in Italy, or attorneys like Anna Maria, who can obtain these codice fiscales for you by signing a delegation. You're giving us permission to request this for you over in Italy. Okay. And this is what we do a lot of times because we find it's very complicated to get from the consulates, and it takes a lot of time. So sometimes it's much faster to pay someone in Italy to take care of this for you. This tax code is a number that's going to be issued, and it's based on a very specific formula. Your name, your last name, your first name, the year you were born, whether you're male or female, and the country that you were born. So sometimes you'll see that there's online codice fiscale generators. You don't want to use those because those online generators are not official. And so that code could have been issued to somebody else, and that would be a problem. So you want to make sure that you're getting this directly from the Agency delle Entrate or the consulate. Okay. Now, once we have the Agency delle Entrate codice fiscale, this is where your realtor or Anna Maria, an attorney, or our agency, if you're coming for citizenship or a visa through our company, can then negotiate your contract with the property owner for your rental or for your home. Because to enter into any contract, correct?
You need contract. You cannot go
codice
without codice fiscale. Yes, it's very important in Italy. Yes.
So this is the first thing that you need to have. From there, right, we're going to go into these rental contracts. So let's first talk about what is a typical rental look like in Italy? Because I think this is going to be something that's kind of different for most Americans. Most Americans, if you rent a property, it's typically 1 year of rental, and it comes with a kitchen, it comes with a bathroom. You pay 1 month of deposit, and maybe you pay your first month of rent. How does that differ in Italy, Anna Maria?
It's different because in Italy, when you want to go ahead with the lease agreement, you have to pay also a security deposit. The security deposit is a sum usually equivalent to or for 2 months, intended to cover potential damage to the property or an unpaid rent. If there are no damages or outstanding payment, the deposit is returned at the end of the contract. So if you want to rent an apartment, I don't know, with also the real estate agents, you have to pay in advance or at the moment that when you sign the agreement, one rent month for a month, one this deposit, and also the fees of real estate agents in advance. This is typical when you want to sign a lease agreement here in Italy.
So then let's talk about, so that's how we sign the lease. What does the home come with when you're renting in Italy? Is there a kitchen? Are the homes fully furnished? What does a typical rental home look like?
Depend of what you want. The renter want. The center, we can have a different kind of lease agreement, as I told you, and they also depend of the agreement that they find between the landlord, and also the tenants, or the situation. When you arrive here and you want to buy a property, it's very important also when the sign. Also, also to purchase a property, it is essential to pursue preliminary checks, so a due diligence. And if you want to buy something and to have some furniture, sometime in Italy you can have also the incentive to buy furniture also for the house, but depend on the situation. If you want to buy or you want to give to someone to buy in our behalf the furniture for your house. But normally, usually when you arrive here and you want to buy the house is empty, so you have to buy something to purchase or to live there.
Correct. And so that's a little bit different, right? So we are typically used to walking into a home that's going to have everything. It's going to have, the drapes that you saw on the walls. It's going to have the kitchen cabinets and the kitchen furnishings. And many times these homes do not have that. And so that is something to take into consideration when you're purchasing, because you're obviously going to need those things. And that includes when you're renting. And we see this with citizenship services that we do when we're arranging rental homes. And so this is where our agency steps in, and we're actually going and viewing those homes. And Ana Maria, as our lead attorney, who is drafting the contract, she is making sure that in that contract, it's very clear that there will be a kitchen, there will be a couch. These items are in the lease and they are accounted for. And so that's something really important to keep in mind.
Yes.
Now, what about maintenance when you're renting a home, Ana Maria? Who is typically responsible for maintenance? Let's say there's a leak in the bathroom. This is something that's quite common in homes, water problems. Is that something that the landlord is responsible for as the property owner, or is the tenant responsible for this?
Depend if when you sign, and initially when you sign an agreement, a lease agreement with the landlord has to give you the future apartment, the property free without any problems. If there is some problems in the apartment, it's very important to write what kind of problem there are in this apartment in the lease agreement. And maybe we can write also that the owner has to resolve this problem. If the problem are after that you signed the lease agreement, it's very important to verify, to check if the problem there was before to sign the lease agreement or after. So in this case, if the problem maybe is the tenant is responsible for the damages in the apartment, so you have to verify when you, because Jennifer, it's very important to check very well the apartment before signing everything and before visiting the apartment. You can visit it with the real estate agent if you have a real estate agent, or maybe someone else on your behalf can visit the apartment, because it's very important. If there is something wrong, you have to write in this lease agreement to avoid any responsible in this case.
Very good. And so one last question on rentals. So when a foreigner comes to Italy to rent a home, whether it's through an agency like ours, a real estate agency, or an attorney, what are some of the challenges that they may encounter that a local Italian would maybe not encounter? And some of the challenges I'm thinking of are, being able to produce a work contract or financial means. Do you see those problems, and how were those problems resolved?
yeah, you can decide. It's very important to do a due diligence in the property. So it is essential. The challenge is that sometime the status of the apartment is has something wrong. For example, it's important to check on the property to verify its legal and urban planning status. These include checks for any mortgages, cadastral or urban planning restrictions. Obtaining a cadastral and mortgage report can help confirm that the property is free from debts or other issues, such as building code violation. And Jennifer, it is also important to conduct a due diligence on the owner to ensure that the seller is indeed the owner of the property and has the legal right to sell it. And this is important also in the case you want simply to have an agreement, a lease agreement. It's very important to know and to check everything, to avoid, as I told you, to avoid any mistakes, any something wrong, or any penalty.
Correct, because many times there could be multiple owners, correct? And because of inheritance laws in Italy. And so one member of the ownership team, there may be 6 owners, 6 family members, and one may decide to rent where the others do not agree to this. And so this is why this is important, correct? Even in a lease.
And in this case also, for example, in a case of inheritance, there are many heirs. So sometimes there is an heir that wants to sell the house and the other one then don't want. So it's very important to know everything to avoid that you can arrive in front of the notary and someone else says, but I don't want to sell anything. So it's very important to check, as I told you, also to the owner. Who is the owner?
So let's kind of keep going on that about purchasing the home, right? So you said that there could be many owners. How does someone find out who the owners are? Whose responsibility is that? Because I know there's many parties involved. There's an attorney, there's a notary, there's a geometra, there might be a realtor. What are each of these parties' responsibilities and their duties to perform when purchasing a home?
That's the notary oversees the signing, the register on the sale contract and ensuring the legality of transactions. So he can be responsive for this one. The lawyer as well advises on legal aspect of the sale, helping to protect the buyer's or seller interest. So maybe if something wrong, his job is to sell something is wrong. And the survivor geometry is very also important because conduct technical evaluation and check the property's compliance with building and zoning regulations. So they are a team and they have to work very well to guarantee that the property is free and you can sell it without any problems, of course. And sometimes it's very important also the real estate agents, because sometimes the real estate agents in that case, sometimes they don't tell you that there is something wrong, and or maybe that you can discover at certain point that the owner is not only one, but there is 2 or 3 owners. So it's very important to work together in a big team to protect, to take care of the future buyer, of course.
So what about when there are problems in the home? Is it the owner's responsibility to disclose those defects? So, for example, if the owner knows that there is a leak in the roof, but you are looking at this property in the summer when there is no rain, is the owner responsible for telling you when it rains this winter, there will be a problem? And what do you do if that was not disclosed to you? Who is then responsible?
In this case, I think that the owner is responsible because he is unfair, is not correct in for with because he knows very well that during the bad weather there will be happen this situation. So I think that is not correct because the behavior is of the parties is very important when you want to close an agreement, a fair agreement, a correct agreement. Yeah, if the owner don't say this situation, you can if you don't have anything to write for it right, it's not easy to tell him that he's responsible for this situation. So I think that is better always write something. Also an exchange of email when the owner say my property is okay, it is ready to rent or is renting. And so if you have someone something to write, it's better to help you, can help you.
And so what happens? Say I buy a home and 6 months later it's raining in my kitchen because the owner did not disclose that there was a hole in the roof, and I did not inspect it and see that hole in the roof. What do I do?
So, if allora, it's very important. It's not easy to start an illegal action against the owner if you discover that these damages after you have the property, because one time you bought a property, you are the new owner, so everything is under your responsibility. So it's not very I'm sure that you if you go in front of the court and you say I bought this property 6 months ago and now I have this problem, is not easy because you have to prove that this problem is now after you bought the property.
Very good. Good. Okay. And so then let's back up a little bit to the contract. In the contract, when we're writing the contract, we make an offer.
Which kind of offer?
For purchasing a property. So we're going to make an offer to purchase a property. What are the steps? I look at the home with a realtor. I like the home. I would like to write an offer. What happens at that point?
So if there is a real estate agent, you have to speak with him because the real estate agent has the mandate from the seller in this case. And you can sign if the property, you think that the property is nice or has all your criteria, for example, square meter, budget, or something like that. You can do a new offer to the real estate agent, and you should sign and document where you say always, okay, I would like to buy this property, this price, and the real estate agent can propose this sum to the seller. If the seller accepted this sum, you can go ahead or directly, but it's very important. Third point, check, because when you have in this first step, you can say only, okay, I like this property and I want to buy this property and this is my offer, okay? But you don't know exactly what is behind of this property. So if the seller say, okay, I can accept this sum. Second step, very important, is to check everything before you say, okay, we can buy this property, we can go in front of the notary. So the due diligence, it's very important in the second step. After that, you can decide, but you're not obliged to buy if there is something wrong in this due diligence. Because sometimes the owner or the real estate agent cannot say you what is exactly behind a property, your dream property.
And during that due diligence process, is there any money exchanged? And if there is, where is that money going? And can I get it back if I find out there are problems and we're not going to move forward?
Okay, if there is a real estate agent, you should pay a little sum to, because they want like a deposit, little deposit that is change the real estate agent and real estate agent. But there is this sum. If there is something wrong in the due diligence, the real estate agent has to back to you this sum. Okay,
Oh.
it's very important. There is another case. If you think that the property is good and there is only a little thing that the seller has to adjust to, if you want to buy the property, you can sign a preliminary agreement. A preliminary agreement. In this preliminary contract, you can write some detailing, for example, detailing all the aspects of the purchase, such as the final price, the date scheduled for the final deed, and the payment methods. In this case, you should pay the caparra of the deposit, that is around usually 10 to 20% on the purchase price, is paid to secure the agreement, and you have to register also this agreement is better. So in this time, eventually the owner can repair something, or can something, if there is something illegal, for example, at the end, you are sure that the property is your property, your future property. When everything is good, you can go in front of the notary to purchase the property.
Very good. And how long does the purchase from making an offer on a home to actually going in front of the notary and signing the final papers to where the keys are in your hand, how long does that typically take?
So, as I told you, if everything is okay, imagine that the property is clear, is free, is perfect. So you can propose, and if said okay for the price, I think that in also 2 months, 3 months, we can have the deed of sale.
Okay. And what about so let's get into closing, right? Because I know that when I went through closing, it was different than a friend of mine who went through closing, because I took a mortgage. And I did basically two closings. I closed the mortgage and then I closed the home. Can you talk about that a little bit, and what the difference is when you're a cash purchaser versus going through a mortgage process?
Um, if you go through the mortgage, if you want to ask a mortgage to buy your apartment, depend on the bank, because sometimes there is each bank has to do a due diligence also for the person that want to ask this mortgage. So depend of the situation. Maybe 6 months or I don't think 1 year, but 6 months, 8 months you can obtain, because it's very important for the bank that you are solvent. So they have to check this one. They have to check if you work, if you can pay the mortgage. In this case, also with mortgage, you can buy in front of the notary the apartment, and usually this kind of deed of sale, you can sign this one directly in the bank. So you obtained mortgage, and the same place you can sign the deed of sale.
So a lot of people, especially coming from the US real estate market, people feel like, oh, I should offer 10% or 20% below the asking price of the home. Is there such a norm in Italian real estate? Or do people put out their best price and that's what the owner is going for, and they're not going to negotiate?
No. You can, if you want. Your proposal, your offer is free. You can offer. There isn't our law is not contrary for this. So you can ask. You can ask. There isn't a law that cannot give you the possibility to offer low of this price, because the market is free. Okay, market is free.
Very good, very good. So any advice that you have for someone looking for property? Do you recommend that they come in person to look at the properties, or do you feel like using somebody like a property finder or a real estate agent is sufficient? What is your experience and legal professional recommendation?
Well, I have many experience in this sense, because because sometimes my clients contact me. They said, okay, we found, for example, Idealista or some real estate agents, we found our house, and please, can you contact the real estate agents? And when I will contact them, I can start to have the preliminary agreement, preliminary situation to verify. Of course, you can buy, and sometimes there is someone that purchase a property without never visit the property. Sometimes happen. But it's very, I think, is not very easy, because there is something that is better to check. Or if you can buy a property without never visit it, but it's very important to have a team that support you in this process. If someone can help you, take care of you from your offer until in front of the notary, because it's not necessary that you are here and to sign the deed of sale with the notary, because you can also give to someone else the special power of attorney, and you can buy also even if you are not here in front of the notary. So the process, you can do it without stay here in Italy, in Sicily, or wherever you want. It's not important, but it's very important that someone take care of you, can help, can advise you.
And so who should that person be? Who can you entrust? Because who is the realtor representing? Is the realtor representing you as the buyer, or is the realtor representing the seller?
The real estate, you say?
The real estate agent.
The real estate they will receive the mandate from the seller, of course. But if the real estate stays in the middle, because he has an interest to close the deal, so at the hand, he represents both of them, because now it's convenient. So it's very important, at your point, that the buyer has someone that take care, because he wants only to close the deal.
Okay. And so we see a lot in the expat market, unlicensed realtors, or they're called property finders. What is your experience with the property finders? Is that somebody that we can trust, or should we be looking for an attorney to represent us through this, if we're not going to be in Italy to buy the home?
A property finder's role is to represent only the buyer, assisting in the search of ideal property. So it's not the attorney, is not that someone, maybe you can trust if you know very well, But in this matter is not easy, because he wants only to sell the property that he found without anything, without risk. If you have a property funders, you give him all the criteria, no? As I told you, square meter, budget, the zone, the position, everything, and he starts his work. But the property funder, their job is not, his job is not to check if the property that he found is free or not free, is correct, is have everything. It's not his interest, okay? When he found the property, his job, that's it.
That's it. So, yeah. So your final recommendation is we need our lawyer,
yeah,
we need our notary,
yeah,
our geometra,
yeah,
the real estate agent or the owner of the property representing themselves.
Yeah,
and the property finder is someone that is an addition to help us locate an addition.
It's an addition, only an addition, I think. It's
Great.
only an addition. So this is another person at the sum that you have to pay.
Yes. And so typically, you know, when you're buying a house, what percentage of the purchase price do you want to account or a budget for to cover the attorney, the notary, the geometra, all of this support? Is there a percentage that you should allow?
So depend of the property that you want to buy, because the notary, when you buy a property, has to pay the registration tax. The notary calculate the applicable purchases tax, so registration tax, VAT, mortgage and cadastral taxes. And also the fees of the real estate agent, that is around 4% or more, 5%, depend on the agents. And also the notary fees depend also at the hand of the, I think, 3,000. You have to calculate in base of the property. Yes, it's very important, the budget that you want to do, because the job, you know, it's always the same, because the due diligence, the work is the same, but depend the difficulty that you can find in your way, no? If you have to check, if you have to ask more documents, if there is something wrong and you have to adjust this one, depend of the situation. But you have to pay the notary, yes, correct, the geometra, the lawyer, the real estate agent. This is the first. So I think that the property funders is not convenient in all of this cost.
Sure. So any final advice or words of wisdom when someone is looking for a property? You know, what do you tell your foreign clients? You know, what is your best advice when going out and looking for a property?
So my best advice is to pay attention on everything, because and also it's very important that they have to ask to support in the purchasing steps or each, because a professionals team is very, very important to avoid risk in the future. So it's very important. Sometimes some foreign people, to avoid to pay in advance the lawyer, also the geometra or other person, in the future they pay more because they have more risks. I don't know if I can explain what I mean.
Yeah. So sometimes you try to cut a corner up front and not pay everyone. But unfortunately, in the end, you find that there's additional problems, and that's going to cost you more money in the long run. I think that's what you're trying to say. Yes.
And you have to go maybe sometime in front of the court, so it's worse, no?
It's worse. Exactly. And so with that, let's talk about the courts, and let's switch over to citizenship now. So thank you so much for sharing about that, about purchasing and about renting, because I think that's really important for anyone that's looking to pursue their citizenship or pursue a visa to come to Italy, is to understand the housing market, because you must live somewhere, we hope. We do not want you unhoused or homeless in Italy. So let's switch over and talk a little bit about citizenship. And Anna Maria, you collaborate with us quite a lot on citizenship, and this has been something that's been really important, considering that there are some new administrative rules from the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, the Ministry of Interior specifically oversees the offices, the town hall offices, comune, these anagrafe offices, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs oversees the consulates. And as you know, recently, there was a circular that you wrote us a white paper on. Could you explain that circular as far as that minor issue goes with the naturalization dates?
Yes, this one, is, as I told you, is only an interpretation of this sentence of our Suprema Corte di Cassazione. And also I think is a political situation, because maybe they want to block something, but I think that as I told you, is only an interpretation. It's only an interpretation, but it's not. They don't change our law. In this case, they don't change our law, and they did this interpretation also for ius sanguinis, and also for the residents, because I think that you can work in this matter. You can change this situation with other similar cases in this matter. Probably because it's only an interpretation. If you can put in front of the court other case, similar case, and you can support this new case with other situation, maybe you can have any different pronunciation of the Court of Cassazione.
Exactly. And so what this interpretation says, this is a 1912 law. And it's specifically dealing with this 1912 law, Article 7 and Article 12, it seems are in conflict to each other. One of the articles says that citizenship is derived from the father, and the father, when he naturalizes, also naturalizes the child. Now, the other interpretation, the other article of this law says that as long as that child was born, and if the father naturalizes and that child was born, then the child continues with his iure soli, citizenship as given at birth, but he can continue as an Italian citizen. And so this is in conflict, right? And so there are a few judges in a few courts who have interpreted this law, and it's went up to the Court of Cassazione to say that when the father naturalized, if the child was still a minor, then the Italian citizenship ceases to exist. So they have directed the consulates and the town halls to no longer process these. And so there is still a remedy through the courts, through bringing a strong case through the courts. There are many courts. We have 20 regional courts, is that correct? 20 regional courts, and many of these judges are still allowing these cases.
Yes.
It is, of course, this is a legal process, and this is never without risk. But at this time, this law has not changed. And so what is happening, right, is consulates around the world. More and more people since COVID during COVID time, a lot of people had time to research and discover that they were eligible for Italian citizenship, which is one of the most generous citizenship laws in Europe. And it allows, when you have Italian citizenship, it gives you access to all 27 countries in Europe. And if you can prove that your ancestor was alive on or after 1861 when Italy unified, or after the 1920s, depending on a few of those northern regions, and the citizenship was uninterrupted at birth, then you can proceed to call yourself Italian and be recognized from your birth, even if you are multiple generations down. This is changing because there are so many people applying at the consulates. New York consulate has 8,000 people on the waiting list. Washington, D.C. has over 1,200 people on the waiting list. And like you said, this feels very political. This feels very political. We're currently experiencing in the world a very nationalistic movement in many governments around the world, not just Italy. And so there's an interpretation, because citizenship cannot be changed by administrative act. Is that correct? Citizenship can only be changed by a law change.
Law change, yes.
And so these cases can still be viable. And so we have remedies. We have the 1948 ruling that since 2009 have been allowed in the courts that women who are in your line, if they gave birth before January 1 of 1948, up until that date, could not pass their citizenship to their child. And so you would have to go to the courts and the judge would decide because it was discriminatory.
Yeah, this is discriminatory. Yes, yes. A political position, certainly.
It's a political position. And so the consulates and the comunes cannot recognize this. So we have precedents here that we have remedies through the courts. What does that mean for people? It means a court process. And Anna Maria, I know I'm going to push you a little bit here because this is not your area of specialty. Your specialty is real estate, but can you talk, to your knowledge of the court process, and just, some of the different costs that might be involved in going to court, and some of those risks of the courts?
Yes. So if you, it's necessary that you have to go in front of the court to obtain your rights. In the cost are obviously there are the initial fees for the work of the lawyer that have to deposit your act in front of the court. So, and also the cost of the justice, because there are the marketable exactly that you have to pay. So, depend of the lawyer that, because in this case we have a special tariffario. So in this case, for the judge, you have to check, depend of the budget of the situation, the value. So, and how long maybe 2 years, 3 years, or 1 year. So depend also this for my experience of the judge, because in this moment there are many causes in front of, so it's not very easy.
No.
It's not very easy than the similar case. So if you can go, it's you have to ask very well for each lawyer how are their fees in this case to deposit the first preliminary act, the record, and then I think that there are some 2 or 3 hearings in front of the court. So
yes, so it's very important, right, to do your due diligence, just like when you're going through and doing the due diligence of buying a home, and making sure you understand what's involved, because there are fees, there are the attorney's fees. Even before you get to the attorney, you have your costs for your documents back from the US and from Italy. And this is where, our team really excels in collecting those documents and preparing those documents from the US remedying the names, making sure the documents are of the correct age, right? We have Article 41 that says documents in Italy need to be under 6 months unless you self-certify them as being correct. Making sure that you have apostilles on your documents, that the documents are then translated, and those translations go through a special process to be certified by either the consulate or the court. And here we have another marca di bollo, which is a tax stamp that's attached to it. And then we get into the court case, and the attorney is going to make that preliminary filing, which is going to be presented to the court. The court then will assign a judge. The judge and their clerk will then assign a date. And those dates, in some cases, may be a year out, but maybe 2 to 3 years, depending on which of those 20 regions, which of the actual judges you're going to be going in front of.
And in Italy, the judge changes always. So you have for 1 year one judge, and next you have to wait 1 year to have another new judge. This is typical in Italy. It's typical.
Exactly. And so we see sometimes on our court cases that we have a special judge who is sitting in because a judge has left, has moved, has changed. And so this is where it's really important to be working with an attorney and working with a provider that focuses on this and knows these judges, knows these court cases, because there are changes, right? The only thing I tell my clients this all the time, and my staff, the only consistent thing in Italy is change.
Yes.
You can always expect things to change in Italy.
Always.
It's the only consistent.
And you have to start again. And you have to start again. So it's very important that someone take care of you, because he can tell everything. He can explain the situation, explain also at point we are at the moment. If our law changes again, we don't know. It's very important.
Exactly. And so these things are changing. And so we need to know. And so we want to kind of slow down here. And if you can, please put your questions in the chat, and we're going to take a few minutes. We've got about 10 minutes left, and we'd like to answer some of your questions if you have them. Because, I think we've given you a lot of information, but maybe you need clarification on something and you have a question. So let me pop into these Q&As. And okay, so Chris, you want to know, by furniture, do you mean ovens, kitchen cabinets, etc.? It's not typical in the US have to come with couches. So yes, what we mean is sometimes the homes will not come with a kitchen cabinet. They may not come with bathrooms. Whether you're renting or buying. I know I lived in Italy for about 2.5 years before I purchased my home. And so I lived in 3 different cities, and each time I rented the home, it came with something different. And so I would go and I would look at the rental, and they had their furniture, they had their kitchen cabinets, and stupid me, the first time I rented, I thought, okay, they're going to take their furniture, but I'll buy a kitchen table, I'll buy a couch. I arrived at the home, there were no kitchen cabinets. I didn't know to ask, are you going to leave the kitchen cabinets? And so quickly I was buying a kitchen for a home that I only intended to live in for about 6 months. So many times these things need to be disclosed, and you need to ask. When you're renting a home for citizenship, this is something that we do day in, day out. We rent homes short term for our applicants. And one of the things that we always look for is a fully furnished home, meaning it has a kitchen, it has a kitchen table, it has pots and pans. You're basically renting what could be like an Airbnb equivalent. It's a fully furnished, fully functional home. You're going to pay more for that. And so it's going to be more expensive than your local friend. Your local friend may be rented for $300, but you're paying $600. Why are you paying $600? Because you're not only renting the home, you're also renting all of the furniture. Okay. And so that's what we mean by that. This one's for you, Anna Maria. Is the buyer able to have a third-party inspection done to ensure things like the roof don't leak? Can you have an inspection?
Yes. The buyer, can have an inspection, can have a visit to check everything. and in the apartment that he wants to buy. It's very important, and we can write something in this case if there is something wrong in the apartment, and also the buyer can ask that wants to remove if there is something wrong before to buy the property, of course, also to leave only for the lease agreement or something like that, but he
Very good. Great. Does it make it easier to buy property in Italy if you're an EU citizen, not necessarily Italian, but you're not a third country national? Say you're Spanish. Does that make it easier, or does that even make a difference?
I think it's the same because the procedure is the same. You know, we are talking about the document is always the same. If you are in Spanish or you are not in European citizenship, so it's important to have all this tax codice fiscale, this kind of documents, but it's the same, the procedure.
Okay. And okay, let's see. After you buy a property and close on it, are there yearly real estate taxes, and how much of the home value are those?
Okay, as I told, the value of if you want to calculate the tax exactly that you have to pay, depend of the value of the department. The value can take this one of the cadastral You can obtain the value of the cadastral, and the notary calculate this tax that you have to pay at the moment, the exactly moment you have to sign the agreement. Of course, we work in these ways. Obviously, you can have also your costs. You can have all your costs before you sign, because when you choose the property, the notary can calculate before you want to buy the property. Okay, you have to pay this for cadastral, this for, and you can see everything. But you can know it only after you choose the property, of course, and the value is the notary calculated it.
Okay, and let me add to this. There is a different tax if this is your first house and you take residency versus if this is your vacation home. Is that correct?
Yes, different tax. Yes, and you have also you can have also the benefit for the first, if for you is the first house here in Italy, you can save money. You can pay less taxes. I think that's 2%. I do remember.
2%, I believe. 2% on first house, and I think it's 9% or 10% if it's your second home or vacation.
Your second home or vacation. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. And is there homeowners insurance in Italy?
Yes, you can. Yes, and many foreign people ask also to us to if can we find good insurance for them, because they want an insurance from, and I advise it because sometimes foreign people buying a house here only to stay here for I don't know, 1 or 3 months, not always. So it's important to have an insurance, because you know if can happen something in the apartment, example rain, or if you have an insurance, is very important.
Very important. What about homeowners warranties? Do you know? So in the United States, you can buy a home, but you can buy a home warranty, meaning that 6 months after I move into the home, the dishwasher breaks or the washing machine breaks. I have a warranty on the home, and this insurance company is going to take care of these appliances or the heater or air conditioner. Does that exist here in Italy?
So I don't think you can have a warranty only. You see, this is an example of dishwasher, wash machine, air conditioner. When you buy this dishwasher, you have a warranty, but I don't think that exists in the. But I have to ask to an insurance person that apply, but I don't think.
Okay, all right. So Mark, we don't think it's typical, but we will get back on that. Okay, and so Mark, we also kind of answered, Major appliances when you're renting a home. Say the air conditioner breaks while you're renting a home. Is that the renter's responsibility to replace it if it broke down because it was old or it was struck by lightning, or is that the renter?
No, it's the owner. It's the owner that has to change.
Very good. Okay, this question is for me. We have documents in English for dual citizenship. It's for our grandmother before 1948. How can you help? So our team, and unfortunately, we don't have Maggie back in here still, but what our team does is we can research, we can collect all of those documents, get all of the corrections on the names, translate them into Italian, and then take them to the courts as needed to have those translations verified. So we can take, if you've already collected your documents, you get your apostilles on them, and they're going to need translations. We have translators on our team that can do that. Another question about citizenship. I'm having a problem getting a response from the consulate. How can we get help obtaining documents? So do you need I'm a little unsure. My father's consulate official email address is bouncing back, delivery failure, and their Facebook page is unresponsive. So Chris, I'm not really sure. Can you send me that in email? Because I think if you mean by the comune, the town hall, like you need a birth certificate or marriage certificate, it's very difficult to get those town halls to answer, isn't it, Anna Maria? The town halls, they don't answer the phones, they don't answer the emails, but there is a special PEC email, which they are mandated by law to answer within 6 months. And so sometimes that's the way you have to go. You either need to get a PEC email or you need to hire somebody with a PEC email to do. Nicole, are there annual taxes in Italy to be paid in the US? Yes. If you live in Italy, if you have residency in Italy, then yes, you pay annual income taxes. If you own a home, you're going to pay your annual property taxes, just like the US. We live and die by taxes. We can't get rid of them.
Yes, exactly. You should pay the tax for the property. The name is IMU, and also you have to pay the tax for waste tax for the owner, because you are the owner.
Yep. Thank you, Chris. Can I provide a range of costs for dual citizenship through the courts, since you'd be going through the grandmother for 1948? So great question. We actually list this on our website. We try to be as transparent as possible. So our attorney fees, and we have partnerships with 2 excellent law firms, one out of Milan, one out of Rome, and we're working on another partnership here in Palermo. Our attorney costs, if your documents are prepared, okay, documents are phase 1, and you can see on our website what documents phase 1 are. If you then come to us with your documents ready, the court cost for the attorney in the court is $6,000 for the first person. Each additional person is $750 that you want to add on to that. So say it's you, your siblings, and your cousins. It's $6,000 for you, $750 for your sister, $750 for your brother, $750 for your cousins. Documents are quoted separately because each family is very different. You may be 1 generation, I was 4 generations. I needed more documents. I would be more expensive for documents for you. Chris, oh my God, yes, this is a lot, right? Jay, in the 1948 case, the regional court is determined by where your ancestor was born. That is what determines your court. Does Italy have comparable sales data available to similar homes in the neighborhood, or are you looking to make sure that you're paying a reasonable price? Yes. The Agency delle Entrate. This is one thing that I found personally. My Geometra pulled this information for me. Who would normally do that? My Geometra is a good friend, so he was able to tell me, okay, according to the tax agency, people are paying this. Is that typically what the Geometra does, or was mine special?
No, geometry, an engineer and technician is geometry is typical. It's not it's only your geometry, but it's typical. They are very informed about everything because they know sometimes very well the comune and also the office around, depending on the place. So I think the geometry is the right person.
Yeah, because they're very, very local. My geometra, sorry, I always mispronounce that. My geometra only works in my town. It's very rare for him to go to another town.
It's very important to know very well the person that works in the comune and in the office, in the local office. It's very important.
Yeah. I have to get naturalized, but only have to live there for 3 years. Know you need to prove income of a little under 9,000 USD a year. Does the income have to be made in Italy? Isabella, I don't fully understand your question. You need to get naturalized, but only have to live there for 3 years. I think you're saying that your line maybe is broken. And if your line is broken, and the line was broken because it was your parent or grandparent, you can only go back 2 generations for citizenship by naturalization in 3 years. You need to qualify first for a visa. And so each visa's requirements are different. I don't know of any visa that the income requirement is 9,000, unless it's maybe the student visa. But I know like the elective residency visa is a minimum of 32,000 per year to get that visa. So Isabella, if you want to go ahead and email me, we can talk about that over email. Okay, and we are going to kind of wrap up in just a second. I just want to hit a couple of utility costs. So how different are utility costs on owning a home in Italy versus US? Should we consider our utility costs as much or as double? And do we ask this when purchasing? So, you know, I can compare my utility costs because I've lived in the US. I think it's a little harder for Anna Maria to compare utility costs. I would say this, utilities are different here. You know, the idea of central heating and air conditioning where the whole house is being heated to one temperature of 24 hours a day or cooled to 24 hours a day is very different because we have here what are called splits, and the splits are in each room. And so when I'm in my living room, I turn on my heater air conditioner, but my bedroom is turned off. So in many ways, the cost can be lower if you utilize it like a local does, right? And so they'll close up rooms that are not used and they won't be heating and cooling them. So you can keep those costs down. However, if you approach this like a typical American and all of your doors are open and you have all of your heaters or all of your air conditioners on, your costs are going to be higher for sure. There are more regulations on the cost, and you can choose your utility companies here, which is quite nice. I know I've switched my utility company because I was able to save and buy into a more flat rate that was less fluctuating on the market. I bought at a rate, so I have 3 rates per day based on, you know, peak usage time, kind of a shoulder, and then a low usage time. And so my low usage time, luckily, is in the middle of the night, and that's when I need the air conditioner or the heat, you know, to be running stably, and that's when I run my washing machine, because that's also when my rates are lower. But I'm not subject to those market fluctuations. But you do have options, but it really depends on your usage. I would not say, you know, that it's not double or 4 times the amount. I mean, unless you have bought a house that is very drafty and, you know, doesn't have good windows, things like that. Typical homes here, because there's a lot of incentives for green homes. So there's tax incentives, correct, Anna, for their panelinos? Is that my
pannelli solari, the photovoltaic? Yes. You can have many incentive benefit tax if you put your photovoltaic also on the roof. If you can have also many benefits, and you can save a lot of money in the future.
Yeah, you can save a lot of money, and I can tell you, you know, just, you know, a couple things that are flat rate. Cellular service, about 20 euros per month for 5G cellular service. High-speed fiber internet in your home, 20 to 30 euros per month. So you can really save. I know when I left the US almost 7 years ago, I was paying over $100 per month for internet. I still have an American cellular plan. It's over 200 per month versus my Italian plan that I can use in all 27 EU countries. And I can call long distance to the US 300 minutes a month, and it's $29 29 euros per month. So no, so you're probably going to save, but I think those are kind of important things to look at. So let me just give everyone, you have some great questions. So if you would like to reach out to us, you can reach me at info@Italian Citizenship Concierge. I will tell you, if you look at our booking calendar right now and you want to book an appointment, we are booked into January. Please email me at info, because I've opened up some additional spaces for meetings over Thanksgiving week, just for this. So if you email me at info@Italian Citizenship Concierge, right down here, I will, make sure to get you in November. And then if you are interested in knowing more and purchasing a house, need a lawyer to assist you, Anna Maria is located here in Sicily. She works all over Italy. Anna Maria, you also, I know, work in other countries. You have collaborations, correct?
Yes. I work also with foreign people because also I am the list of lawyer in the American, Canadian, and Germany embassies. So I work a lot with other investor in that, because at the moment Sicily is very focused for the investor. So I work a lot in this matter. Yes.
Yes. And so Anna Maria is fglawfirm.it. You have her email there. You have her LinkedIn. Please check out her firm. I mean, we work with Anna Maria quite a lot. If you come and work on citizenship with us here in Italy, or after your recognition, if you go through the court or consulate and decide you want to move to Sicily, Anna Maria is going to be writing your lease or helping you purchase that home if you're working with us.
We have a big cooperation in this matter because two things are the same.
And we want to make sure that you're protected. We know you have a lot of choices. And so, our goal is to do our job well and to do it right and to do it legally, and to make it as smooth and painless as possible for you. So, we thank all of you today for your time. This has been wonderful. We hope we answered your questions. And if you have additional questions, like I said, you can email Anna Maria, fglawfirm.it. And also for me, it's Italian Citizenship Concierge or info@Italian Citizenship Concierge. And for booking appointments, if you want to talk about your citizenship, please email me at that info. Don't book an appointment through the website because you will not have an appointment until January. And so we'd like to talk to you sooner. Thank you, everyone. Anna Maria, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Okay, so.
Thank you all. Have a great evening. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.